Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video, this is part 2 of the I have a big Apple IIe problem in my house. This will be picking up right where I left off in that first video, so if you haven't watched it, I recommend you go do that first, and then continue on with this video. Where I left off, I had tested, I think, 4 of the machines, and in this video, I'm going to get through and test all the rest of them. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. Okay, we have machine number 5. This one has a machine number 1 on the old label. Clover Park School is written on with a Sharpie. It's missing the caps lock key. Has an asset tag on the side. It's got a super serial card that's in here and doesn't have the connection had already come off. I have a little baggie in here which I stuck in there. That is the missing caps lock key, so that can be fixed. I just noticed one other issue. The keyboard, unfortunately, it's broken, and that happens on these particular Platinum machines. The way the keyboard gets mounted, if you put too much weight on the keyboard, it breaks the mount off. Probably nothing that some epoxy, like JB Weld, can't repair, but it's gonna require taking it apart and stuff like that. But I'll have to take this apart anyways because the caps lock needs to be fixed and it needs a new stem. And actually, that's not just a normal stem, that's the latching type. But I think the parts machine, the one with no keys on it, has shift or a caps lock key that is not bad, it's not broken. And this machine has the Liron card in it again, and no other disk controller, and it's got the back covers on. It didn't have one where the serial card was, and one's missing here around the middle slots, but there is nothing right by the disk drives, so don't know. Memory card's in as usual, speakers there, it is hooked up to the motherboard, same motherboard as in all the other ones we've seen, same power supply. Let's power this up. Here we go. Are we gonna have another bad speaker or dead computer? Haha, it works, and it has a working speaker. Let's run the diagnostics. Diagnostics passed without issue. Let's plug a disk controller card in. Even with the Liron card in there, it should go to the disk drive, and it does. This is gonna be Petsky Robots. That obviously is working great. And I just plugged in the floppy EMU. Let's see if it boots to Total Replay. Total Replay. There we go, Karateka works as well. So, machine number 5, it's got a broken caps lock key, which I can fix, and it's got a broken keyboard mount, which hopefully is easy to fix. All right, this is machine number 6, which has the fake number 7 on the side. This one has a missing escape key. That part of the keyboard is mounted okay. That part is mounted fine as well. Case doesn't have anything written on the top, which is nice, but it does say Clover Park on the side here. And inside this machine, which is exactly like the other ones, we got another Liron card, the regular RAM card. They don't have a serial card in this one. It does have the back cover plate removed right here, where the serial card probably was, and it doesn't have any other cover missing, which just again implies that this thing was just using 3.5-inch disk drives, that the Liron card was all they had, and they had unit discs on here. And it's in slot 6 as well. And let's power this up. There we go, it works. I mean, am I surprised? Let's do the diagnostics. Speaker worked as well, there was a beep. Oh, while this is running, if I reach down in here, there's a little bag right there, and there is the missing escape key. That, wow, actually, system okay. That's weird. The beep didn't sound normal there. What's strange is this key doesn't have the broken stem in it, but the escape key that's on the keyboard is broken. So maybe this key came off another machine, like that one that had all the keys pillaged off it already. Maybe someone took those off to kind of strategically replace stuff, because I'm noticing this has a couple yellowed keys right here. Okay, there's the normal beep. Yeah, so anyways, that's a bit strange. All right, floppy EMU is connected for testing the Liron card. I think it's working. Total Replay, there it is. There we go, another working machine. So number 6 has a broken escape key, which I have, and there's no other faults with this machine. So the Liron card gets the check mark. Number 7. Also Clover Park with a fake number 8 on the side that goes away. Heavily yellowed on this part, but not right here, which is probably where the monitor was sitting, I guess. Definitely some scratches along the top of the case right here. It looks like some kind of tape or label was right here that has been removed. The keyboard has all of its keys. Let's see if it's broken at all. Nope, nothing's broken. All right, we have something a little different. We have an aftermarket power supply. There is a label here that says KHP-4007. Obviously, with this case looking black like this, that is not an Apple branded power supply. And it more closely resembles this original Apple II Plus power supply where the power cable comes out of the end here, right here. Well, it comes up on a different side right there. But the later 2GS and Apple IIe ones, the connector comes out of the middle of the power supply right about here. I think we can assume that the original power supply died at some point while this machine was still in service, and it was probably easier to just replace this one than try to service the Apple power supply. And these were probably much cheaper. They probably had a service contract with a company that would come in and service these machines, fix them when kids messed them up or whatever that they did. And this was their aftermarket replacement power supply. Everything in here is identical to the other machines. The Liron card is the only one in here. There's a Super Serial card and the regular RAM card. The date codes on the ICs in here are early 1988. So this machine is a little bit older for Platinum than those other ones we've looked at so far. And just in case this aftermarket power supply does something bad, I'm gonna take out the Liron card here because it's a valuable card. And we don't wanna risk it getting fried if this thing is putting out some kind of voltage that is inappropriate. And it just powered on because the power switch is upside down. There we go. Yeah, it's weird. The power supply you push down to turn it on. A bit strange, but we're obviously working there. So let's run diagnostics. System okay, good sign. I'm just gonna check a few voltage rails. 11.9 on the 12 volts, minus 5.2. It's a bit high, but whatever. Minus 12.17, that's fine. And 5.03, so that's looking good for the 5-volt rail. Floppy drive is working. It's booting up Petsky robots. And the speaker obviously is working. And let's test out the Liron card that was in here. There we go, total replay, yes. And Karateka loaded right up. Number 7, it's A-OK. Not a single problem on this machine. All right, this is the next machine, number 8, and has no missing keys or anything either. Has the remnants of an Apple sticker that was stuck on there that someone has since peeled off. Oh, and someone wrote C4 there. Case is a bit scratched up here and there. There's a sticker remnants there. Oh, reset key looks quite unhappy. That's probably gonna require desoldering, and I mean, it seems to push. We'll see if it actually works. The keyboard mount is not broken. It seems like it's much lower than it should be, so I'm not positive what's going on there. All right, inside this machine, well, it's missing its RAM expansion card. It does have a Liron card in here. It has the stock Apple power supply, and everything else is pretty much standard affair in here. I can see looking down here at the keyboard that it is bent. And I think that's why it looks too low. Yep, there's like a metal bracket in there and it's all bowed. Okay, power's connected. What's gonna happen? Look at that, it works. But this bent reset button, that does not work. I'm gonna plug the floppy emu into the Liron card that's in this machine. And let's just see if it works. At least the speaker works. It does work, it looks booting. Date code on the ICs in here is early 1988 as well. There's K for Karateka. When I was growing up, I called it Karateka. I think a lot of people call it that, but I heard Karateka as another pronunciation. And there it is. So machine number 8 has a bad reset key, and that's an N, a bent keyboard. Looks like beat keyboard. I forgot to mention the fake number 4 that I had on there. It is now number 8. All right, machine number 8. This one is strangely in really good shape when it comes to the case, as in not a lot of yellowing, but the keyboard, on the other hand, yeah, it's yellowed, but it has a, oh, and it's broken as well. It's got the broken mount on this side, got one key that's not as yellowed as the rest, which is odd. And actually the minus key on this side is also like that. Scratch on the Apple logo, case is a little scratched and dented. On the side here it says number 18, which obviously is not correct because this is machine number 9. This machine has date codes from the 90s, making it the newest machine so far to be looked at. We have one of the regular Apple 5¼ inch disk drive controllers, although this has date codes from 1989. The only other one we've seen like this, the one that had a ribbon cable on it, had date codes of 1983. I forgot which machine that was in, but yeah, this is a late one. Apple was making them for quite a while. And I forgot which slot it was in. I think I just took it out of slot 3 maybe, not slot 6. So someone might have just randomly inserted it into any available slot. Standard issue RAM card, and everything else looks ready for testing. All right, here we go. Look at that. Looks good on the monitor. 11.7 volts on the 12 volt rail. 5.01 volts on the 5 volt rail, looks good. Minus 5.12, it's fine. And minus 11.6, which is fine for the minus 12 volts. And it passed the diagnostics without issue. I plugged in the old Apple disk drive here to the controller, and we'll stick in Petsky Robots. All right, it's working, and we have sound that works as well. So this disk controller gets a tick mark. So machine number 9, it totally works perfectly except for the broken keyboard mount. All right, machine number 10. This is one of the older classic style Apple IIes. This one came missing its top cover. It also had all the keys pillaged. This one stem on the keyboard is broken, but the rest are good. This does have the enhanced sticker right here, so I guess this is an enhanced machine. If you're not totally sure if a machine is enhanced, take a look at the CPU, 65SC02. That tells us right there that this is the enhanced version of the machine. But take a look at this. MT RAM, everyone. I think we know what that means. This is the same kind that's on the Commodore 64, 8 chips for 64K, notoriously unreliable, and someone has gone ahead and replaced it with this Fujitsu chip here in 1987. These chips have 85 date codes. So had this MT RAM already failed in 1987? We have 2 ROM chips here, CD and E and F, and there's a video ROM chip over here. And I think, I'm not sure if all 3 of these, but at least some of these get replaced when you upgrade your Apple IIe to the enhanced version. We have the good old classic disk drive. This one has date codes from 1985 that kind of match the computer, plus the old Apple computer logo here. All right, power and video connected. Let's see what happens when we turn it on. It seems to work. Let's see if I can get to diagnostics. There we go. Oh, and we have a RAM failure. Our first machine that actually has a problem. And I'm wondering if that's why this machine's been pillaged, because this thing had an issue from the very start, and someone decided, instead of trying to fix it, to pillage it for all of its parts, specifically the keyboard parts, to fix other machines and the lid, I guess, and whatever, when the reality is it's a very simple fix. Now this diagnostic output here is telling us that it's the 4th bit over, so data bit 3, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, that is bad. When we look at the RAM here on the motherboard, it would be typical, and I'm sure Apple did this, they laid this out in bit order. So it would either be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or it starts on this side, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means the bad bit is either this chip that's already in a socket or the one right next to it. So let me just pop this RAM chip out and put a new one in. I'll see if that fixes the diagnostic issue. I'm just looking over to my right at the pile of chips I have there, and I found this 41256 chip here just sitting there. This chip is obviously 256K by 1 bit, but it should work in this machine. Putting this chip in here will not result in any kind of memory expansion for this machine, but it should actually work. All right, the machine powered up. Let's go to the diagnostics. Nope, still has the same bit error. So I guess it's not a super, so I guess it's not as easy as that to fix this. It's just yet another dead empty RAM chip. 4.99 looks great. 12.1 is fine. Minus 5.1 and minus 11.9. Those are all looking good. I'm just gonna swap this memory chip back to the original one that was in here, this Fujitsu one. I'm sorry I doubted you, Fujitsu chip, especially when there are MT RAM chips that are certainly bad right next to you. Since this machine will not successfully boot anything with bad RAM, and I'm gonna fix that later, not right now, I'm gonna take this disk controller card out and we'll test it in the next working machine. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned that the auxiliary RAM card has been pillaged from this machine as well, so that's kind of lame, but the speaker works at least, and the keyboard is not broken, the mounts are good, so this machine simply needs a new RAM chip, and then I'm sure it will work perfectly well. RAM chip and auxiliary card. All right, machine number 10. It has bad RAM, bit 3, that's it. Machine number 11. And it has a fake number 12 on the side, which I'll peel right off. 9361 written there. Who knows what that means? Machine has yellowing in this part here, not right here, I guess where there was a stand or whatever. Keyboard is not broken. It is missing a little sticker over the LED, or it's a light bulb actually, to tell you whether it's enhanced or not. But nothing is on the sides of the machine at all. Inside the computer, we have the auxiliary RAM card, we have the old traditional power supply, and we have one of the old 16 sector disk controller cards that is very stubbornly in the motherboard here. This has date codes of 83 and 84 on it. And actually, this is not an enhanced machine because it's got a regular 6502 in here, 1984 date code. But take a look at the RAM. It's MT crap RAM when it's got Apple logos on all of them. How funny. And also what's kind of cool about this system is every single IC on the motherboard is in a socket. I do not see a single one, and I'm quite sure that every of the machines we've looked at so far, although I haven't paid that close attention, had most of the chips actually soldered onto the motherboard. I think the ROMs were always in sockets, but the RAM was soldered, CPU was always in a socket, but maybe these large ICs were soldered. I don't remember exactly, but this one will be easy to repair if it's got a fault. Okay, I have the power and the video connected, and to be honest, I am half expecting this machine not to work because of this MT RAM that's in here. So what happens? All right, yep, look at that. The old Apple II, it's definitely not enhanced, I think, with this old Apple II ROM here. So if I hold down Open Apple, Closed Apple, Control, and Reset, it does this kind of weird thing, which is not that dissimilar to the early Apple IICs. I mean, this is different, but those do this kind of randomy pattern that doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't run a diagnostic. What, kernel okay? I was literally blabbering on about how this is not actually a diagnostic, and I guess it is something. I've personally never even used or seen an unenhanced Apple IIe because it was only a few years after the IIe came out that Apple started offering the upgrade kits, and I think it was very trivial to upgrade most IIes. I think there were certain motherboard revisions that could not be upgraded, or at least not fully. So I don't know what the deal is. I'm not sure what revision motherboard this is, but this ROM definitely points to the fact that it's not enhanced. Okay, so this is the disk controller from the last machine that I couldn't test. Let's give this a test. All right, it's booting. Now, even though this machine's not enhanced, it does have 128K, so Petsky Robots says 128, and it should totally work fine. There we go, the game loaded it up. Let's hit enter, try to just start the game, make sure it runs properly. There we go. Looks like it's fine. Okay, so I've gone over to Wikipedia so we can take a look at what the different revisions and what enhanced means. I've sort of been talking about that, and if you're not that familiar with the IIe or Apple IIs in general, you might be confused as to what that even means. So it looks like there are two revisions of the motherboard, the Rev A and the Rev B. Looks like the primary difference between the Rev A and the Rev B is it doesn't support double high-res and double low-res resolutions, meaning it has identical graphics to the Apple II before it. The revision B came out soon after when they figured out that they could actually add these extra modes, which have been carried over, of course, into the 2C and the 2GS. And it looks like Apple offered an upgrade for the Rev A motherboards to Rev B free of charge. So I would imagine most of those Rev A's are gone at this point. You won't be able to see it in the camera, I don't think, but down here is a part number on the motherboard and it says -B. So I'm assuming that this is definitely a Rev B motherboard. In addition, it says that the original 2E had a case that was very similar to the 2 Plus with Velcro strips to hold the lid down. Well, this one does not have that. This has this same clasp mechanism that all the 2Es I've ever seen have. So this is clearly a little bit later than the really early cases. And here we can read about what the enhanced 2E was all about. Basically, it was Apple's attempt to make the Apple IIe more compatible with the Apple IIc, which did introduce some changes. The change involved a new processor, as I mentioned already. It's a 65C02. You get a new character ROM with the mouse text, which are some graphical characters. And you get 2 new ROM firmware chips. And here it says that the character ROM adds the 32 special mouse text characters. And one of the really easy ways is what I already pointed out, is an enhanced 2E starts up with Apple IIe with slashes versus the original Apple with the square brackets, which is obviously what this machine is doing. All right, so we've definitely confirmed that this disk controller from the previous machine absolutely works perfectly, so I'm going to draw a tick mark on it. And then we have this card, which is similar to this one I've been testing with, although this one has the 16 sector sticker on it, and that has to do with the PROMs that are on here. There are different versions, and the older Apple disk operating system used 13 sectors, so you needed different PROMs. Let's plug this floppy drive into this controller and see if it works. Yep, sweet, no problems there with this controller either. As far as I'm aware, one of the other enhancements with the newer ROM is lowercase support in AppleSoft Basic. So if I type list here in lowercase, it should say syntax error, and it does. You gotta have caps lock on, and that's just a side effect of AppleSoft Basic originally on the 2 Plus and earlier did not support lowercase letters. Quick check at the voltage rails, 5.07, 12.28, minus 5.18, and minus 12.16, all fine. And this disk controller obviously works perfectly. Apple IIe number 11, not enhanced, but otherwise perfect. Number 12. This one's got some missing keys on it right here. Seems to have a missing foot on it. Has the fake number of 15 on the side here. All right, inside there are keys. Looks like all 3 of the missing keys are right here. It has an enhanced sticker, so that means it should have the updated ROM and CPU. The CPU says 6503, so I'm assuming that's the enhanced version. Bog standard auxiliary RAM card. It has the same floppy controller as the last machine, which is the type of the ribbon cables. Wow, these slots are really gripping the cards. There we go, yep, so it's this type. So the old 13 sector version, 1978 copyright. This has ICs on here, okay, 84, 83, so this card seems weirdly older than this machine does. Here's a date code right here, 8428. This computer though, all the ICs in here are 1986. And guess what? MT RAM, and it is soldered onto the motherboard. Rude. As I mentioned for the last one, which had everything in sockets, this thing has a lot less sockets in it, including the MT RAM, which is surely to cause a problem. And take a look, the aftermarket power supply that's been replaced with the upside down power switch and all. So I'm definitely half expecting this machine to not work because specifically the RAM, the MT RAM. But stranger things have happened with MT RAM. All right, here we go. Okay, yep, so it's definitely enhanced. It's got the slashes there. Let's run the diagnostics. Let's just take a quick look at the voltages. 5.02 sounds delicious. 11.94, that's great. System okay, so all this RAM is fine. Very shocking. Minus 5.11, and we got minus 12.04, all looking good. So these power supplies, aftermarket ones, do seem to work pretty well. And the case design allows me to look inside and I can see that there is not a refa to be seen in there. The disk drive is plugged in. I am just gonna put a tiny bit of Deoxit on the slot connector here. I just didn't like how hard it was to take in and out of the slot. It feels like it's almost damaging the contacts or something. All right, here we go. All looks good. Game's running fine. So even empty RAM can't hurt the reliability of Apple IIe's. So the disk controller, that obviously works. Got the tick mark. So machine number 12, this machine works perfectly. It does have empty RAM, but that works. And it's missing keys, but I have them, so I wrote that on the note. Number 13, that's what this machine is. It's marked with a number 10, which is fake. The computer definitely has what is known as a patina. It's a little yellow, the whole thing. It's a bit more creamy color than it should be, but the keyboard is complete. It has the enhanced little sticker on there. So let's crack it open. Inside the computer, everything is run-of-the-mill. Auxiliary RAM card is definitely enhanced. It's got the 65 CO2 processor, and it has the standard issue disk controller, and it's in slot 6. Slightly unusual is that the auxiliary RAM card here has this IC in a socket. It definitely hasn't been reworked. It's just like that from the factory. Apple might have been using Commodore's methodology, which basically is if you don't have the chip ready when you're building that card, why don't you stick a socket and then install it later? Power and video is connected. Let's turn it on. Of course it works. I mean, am I surprised? These computers are so reliable. Diagnostics. System okay. I'm booting up Petsky Robots. Let's see if it runs. It looks like it's already loading without any issue. Voltage check. We have a nice 5-volt rail. We have a working game. 12.24, that's fine. Minus 5.09 is fine. And minus 11.93 is fine as well. This is one fully functional disk controller. There we go, machine number 13. It's A-okay. And here is machine number 14, which interestingly enough has the fake 14 label on the side, which I'll take off. Nothing much to report other than some yellowing. The Clover Park branding is right on the top. All the keys are there. The spacebar is a little yellow. It does not have the enhanced sticker on it, so I wonder what we're gonna see inside. And indeed, just like the other one, this has a 6502, so this would be non-enhanced. And all the chips are in sockets, including the RAM, which unlike the other machine, this is Fujitsu branded RAM here, 8264-15s. And the date code on the RAM is 1984. Does that match the rest of the machine? It does indeed. This machine all seems to be 1984. The disk controller that was in here is one of the older type here. It's all socketed, so that's kind of nice. Someone was a bit rude ripping the floppy drive cable off of there though. It's got a little bent pin action. Nothing special about the RAM card. I mean, everything looks pretty much run-of-the-mill inside this machine. Power and video's hooked up. Is it gonna fly or is it gonna fry? Here we go. It works. Apple II. I'll plug my disk drive into the controller that came with this computer. I haven't mentioned this, but always make sure you have the pin 1 lined up properly and you do not have this connector offset by 1 pin either direction. There's 12 volts on these pins and it can easily fry your disk drive, damaging components in there. This was a bit hard to get out, so I am just gonna put some Deoxit on here just as a lubricant. Move the disk into the appropriate disk drive. Here we go. It's booting. Ruh-roh. It did not boot there. Let's try again. I just sort of put the disk in. Yeah, not reading. I think we have our first fault in one of the disk drive circuits. I'm gonna take this known good card and we're gonna substitute this one, and it's booting. So definitely there is a problem with this card. How convenient, Apple, for socketing all the ICs for me. So I'm gonna put an F in the corner up here for fault. Obviously we have a seemingly functional machine. I'm gonna go to that fake diagnostic mode here. Kernel okay, whatever that means. Checking the voltage rails, 4.97, 12.25, minus 5.06, minus 11.9, all looking good. Machine number 14 is A-OK, and I did write not enhanced just so I could tell, even though the sticker here, the lack of sticker, accurately represents it's not enhanced. All right, machine number 15, one to go after this. It's 9375 written on the side in green marker. The case overall is pretty evenly yellowed. It definitely is yellowed though. It's yellower than it should be, but this one is actually in really good shape. It has a fake number 13 on the side. According to this, it's also unenhanced. And yes, indeed, it's got a regular 6502. It's got all the socketed chips as we've been seeing on the unenhanced versions, and it has TI RAM, 220 nanoseconds, so kind of slow. A regular old RAM card. It does not have a floppy controller in here, and everything else. What's this? It's a little bit of weird kind of powder in there. Maybe there was a bug living in here or something. On the back of the machine, I know you can't really see it. It's got all of the slot covers except for one over here where I suppose the disk drive controller was, or the ribbon cable for the drives. They fed through there and connected it to that internal controller. Most likely it's old enough it would have had a card like this. Okay, power and video is hooked up. Here we go. No sound, but it did start up. Let's go to that pseudo diagnostic mode where we don't even hear that screechy noise it normally makes. Speaker is plugged in to the motherboard. All right, hooked up a speaker. How do we restart this diagnostic? I guess I gotta do the whole sequence. Hey, we got sound there. I really do have to wonder what is the deal with all these bad speakers. I'm just gonna pull this speaker out. Let's take a look at it. All right, so this is the speaker that's inside the machine. Oh, look at that. It's got like a dent in it or something. And it's so close to the voice coil that whatever that is that poked it, probably poked right through the paper and might have broken the voice coil. I connected the disk controller. Let's boot this up and we'll go to Pesky Robots, which has the music, so I can push around on this and see if we can get it working. The game is obviously loading, so this machine is functional, other than the speaker. All right, so no sound, right? Let's poke around here a little bit. That is definitely not working. Like, it is fully soldered on properly. There is no bad connection here. It's just, I think whatever hit this must have broken the voice coil. Obviously, I pulled off the dust cap there. Yeah, I'm not sure. It just does not seem to work anymore. So this speaker seems a little bit larger than the typical PC speaker, which is usually this size right here. So if anyone knows a good source of these, I mean, I suppose I just need to look on eBay and see if I can get these cheap. But I'll have to get some more of these, obviously, to fix the speakers up on all these machines where it's non-functional. I have gone ahead and removed the speaker from the cable, the original cable, so I'll just tuck that right here. So for when I get the replacement speakers, I'll quickly be able to reattach it and reinstall it in the machine. So, machine number 15, not enhanced, but otherwise okay. Well, except it has a bad speaker. I mean, should I put okay if the machine works? But okay, whatever, it's too late now. And here it is, the last machine. This is number 16. It's wobbly because it's missing a foot, obviously, on the bottom. It's got all the keys. According to this, it's not enhanced. A little bit of writing on the side here, nothing major. And let's take a look inside. The machine is definitely a non-enhanced machine. It does have a disk controller just sort of stuck in here. And it's actually one of the Liron cards. It's not one of the regular disk controllers. Early motherboard, but it's still a Rev B. It's got TI RAM, similar to that last one we looked at. Everything's in the socket. Auxiliary RAM card is installed. I mean, it's pretty much identical to the last machine, to be honest. Oh, it's really noisy right now. I apologize for that. The furnace is running, the laundry is going, I have the dryer going, and yeah, unfortunately down here in the basement, I am close to those things. I don't have a separate space in the house to work on this. All right, power and video is hooked up. Everything looks good in here. Will it work? Will this final machine work? Look at that, booted right up, no issues. Let's do the fake diagnostic. All right, so either control is bad or reset is bad. Okay, the whole keyboard is not working very well. So like that's the P key, that doesn't work. You know, one of the things I haven't done on these machines is really test the keyboards. And unfortunately, the switches that these machines use are susceptible to issues with dust and whatever, so it can cause issues. So is the control key, no, control is working fine because I can go backwards with that key combo. I'm just making sure that the keyboard connector is connected all the way. Oh, I'm actually noticing something a little interesting here. I just shut the power off. The Apple II uses little standoffs to hold the motherboard in, and there's one right here. But these ones are broken and missing. That one is gone altogether, so the motherboard's kind of flopping around in here. It's held on with a couple screws by the slots here, so it's not like gonna fall out, and that one is there. But on this side of the motherboard, it's no longer connected to anything. Anyhow, the keyboard cable seems to be connected properly. Let's turn it back on. So no reset. That just implies that the reset switch itself is bad here. No big deal. I can still go to that diagnostic mode. If you have a bad reset key, just hold down open Apple, closed Apple, and turn the power on. Holding down those two keys when you power on the computer is essentially exactly the same as pressing control reset. On the Apple II, pushing control reset is the same as power cycling. Now you ask, it doesn't reboot if you just hit control reset. Why is there a difference between power cycling? Well, that's because the Apple II, when you hit control reset, it looks for a very specific byte of memory to be written to a specific value, and that's done when you first power on the machine. That memory location is initialized. When you hit control reset, the machine doesn't erase the RAM, it just checks that little location, and if it sees that byte, it just thinks you're doing a soft reset, right? It just drops back to basic. If you power off the computer and power back on, that little location in memory is going to become corrupted, and then that will cause the machine to not see what it expects, so it initiates a full reboot. But it is also why sometimes when you turn the machine off and on quickly, that it doesn't fully reset, and you'll see some text on the screen, and that is specifically because some types of memory decay very slowly, and if it decays so slowly that that memory location is still correct, the computer thinks you just hit control reset. And you'll see some garbage on the screen because some of the memory has probably eroded, and you'll see little corruption here and there. But yeah, that's why power cycling it off quickly doesn't always result in a power cycle. All right, well, let's take this disk controller that I know works, and let's plug this into slot 6. See if we get Petsky Robots. That is a working machine. Petsky Robots fired right up. All right, so the Liron card, I have it connected to the floppy EMU. I stuck it into slot 7, so when we power the machine up, it should go right to Total Recall. It didn't. Let's try again. No. Let's try a different slot. All right, into slot 6, which we know works because we were just using it. No. Interesting. Yeah, this keyboard is not working well at all. I can't push the P key, so I can't even type PR number 6. Now, what I haven't done is use a Liron card on one of the unenhanced machines yet. So I'm going to take one that I know fully works. Let's try this one and just double check that this isn't a problem perhaps with the unenhanced ROM. Like, I don't know if you need the enhanced Apple IIe to actually use these cards. That might be the case. All right, here we go again. Yeah, it's not working. So I guess these Liron cards require an enhanced IIe to work. Now, it's possible that PR number 6 might have worked, but I can't do it because the P key doesn't work. Let me grab one of the other machines that's the unenhanced version, and then I'll manually test that out. Before I take this machine off the bench though, number 16, it works, but it's got bad keys. Right, number 15 with the bad speaker. Just make sure it still works. It definitely does. Let's plug in the known tested Liron card into slot 6, and let's just see what happens. Okay, exactly the same. PR number 6, there we go. Okay, look at that. It's actually booting. So this is my tested card. I will have to swap to the one that was in that other machine. Let's just see if that one does work. This is the card from machine number 16. PR number 6. There we go, it's booting. We'll just load Karateka as a test. All right, Karateka is working fine. There it is. Of course, we have no sound because the speaker is bad. All right, so this Liron card works great. So I'm looking for schematics for this disk controller card. so I can just figure out what's wrong with this. Now, obviously, there are regular ICs on here, so I could just swap everything out one by one, especially because they have like a working card. Oh, here we go, on Reactive Micro, disk interface card. Close-up of proms. Oh, wait a second, no. This is not helpful. I wanted schematics, not this. Are there really no schematics? Let's look at 2 and 2 Plus under schematic. Apple II schematics. Over here on apple2org.za, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure this is for the, is this the disk controller? Okay, here it is. I found the schematics for the interface card. And the problem we're having is it doesn't seem to be able to read anything, right? It was trying to seek. When it powered on the computer with this card, it did like attempt to boot, like we heard the head seek. But the read signal from the disk drive, which comes in right here, read data, goes into this 74LS174. So I suppose for reading and writing, it really is these three ICs right here. So it's the LS323, the LS174, and it's this PROM here, the P6 one. So the candidate problem chips is that one right there, this PROM right there, P6, and this chip here, which is the LS373. I'm going to start this diagnostic process by just removing these ICs, and I will deoxit the sockets and reinsert them. Here's machine number 15. Pop this in again. All right, here we go. Look at that. It's booting. That was it. It was just a bad connection in one of those sockets. Amazing. Amazing. Petsky Robots booted right up. Start game. And I know I've been calling it Petsky Robots the entire time. It's like Attack of the ASCII robots or the Apple robots. But obviously this is Petsky Robots, right? It's just a port to the Apple. It does say Apple Robots right there, actually. All right, well, this card is fixed. That's all it was. So a little 99% IPA. We'll take this Sharpie right off. There it is, gone. And the F is replaced with a check mark. And the thing is, when I think about it, maybe I should have just tried to push these chips into the board a little bit better. Instead of the deoxit, that might have fixed the problem as well, but I think the deoxit's probably a little bit of a longer term fix. The sockets that I saw underneath there, they're just not good quality. Okay, all 16 machines have been tested, and I am simply amazed that only one machine has any kind of actual digital fault, and that's the one that has a bad RAM chip. Every single other one has fully working logic boards. There was probably like 5 or 6 that have bad speakers. Don't remember the exact count there. So I'll need to find a source for those. And all of the cards that were in all the machines work. Well, I haven't tested the serial cards, but I assume those are all working. All the disk controllers are working. The machines came with a total of 7 Liron cards, or Liron, or however you say it. These are the smart port cards for the Apple IIe or the II Plus. And all of these are tested and work. Of course, at the beginning, I was confused and thought they didn't work because I didn't really fully understand how they work, but now I know. They only work with smart port devices like the floppy EMU and not floppy drives, and they do not auto boot in non-enhanced Apple IIs, which I assume includes the Apple II Plus. So the II Plus and the non-enhanced IIe, you have to manually start the cards up to get them booting. Otherwise, in the later ones, it will simply auto boot. And then next up for cards, there were 4 of these types of disk controller cards. These are the older type that have the ribbon cable connections. So we had 4 of those. And then there were a total of 4 of the same card, but with the DB19 connector on it. So that's a total of 15 disk controllers, if you count these 2 types together. So one machine was missing the disk controller. And there was at least 2 machines, I think, that did not have the RAM card. Might have been 1, but it might have been 2. But almost all of them had the auxiliary RAM card, which brings the machine up to 128K. And when I booted up Petsky Robots, they all worked, all the ones that were included at least. And then finally, there were 5 Apple Super Serial cards. And like I mentioned, these are pretty good cards in that you could use these with ADT Pro, and what makes them a little bit better than the older serial cards for the Apple II, there was another older version, is that these have configurable baud rates, and they support up to, if I recall, 19,200 bits per second. So that means that transferring disk images, it's relatively fast. And with that, that's going to be it for this video. Really shows how incredibly reliable Apple II computers are. I just can't believe that all of these machines pretty much work perfectly, other than the odd problem, which I will have to get back to in a future video for fixing. There's the RAM error, and there's that power supply that wasn't working. All of the other problems with these machines, like the bad speakers or the key switches that aren't working because they're probably dirty inside, just require taking apart keyboards or swapping speakers, so pretty simple stuff there. I'd really like to thank AJ again up in Seattle for donating these machines to me. And for now, I'm going to be putting these Apple IIes into cold storage, so to speak, because I have tons of other projects I need to get to first before I'll revisit those Apple IIs. Although maybe I'll get to those repairs of those two machines sooner than later. I'd also like to thank, as usual, all of my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the screen right now. A huge thank you to all of them for supporting the channel and everything that I do here. If you want to become a supporter yourself, you can do so at the link in the description. If you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Put your comments down below, subscribe, all that usual YouTube stuff. And there is Adrian's Digital Basement 2, my second channel. If you haven't seen that already, don't forget to check that out. And I think this has gone on for long enough, so I would like to thank you very much for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.